Welcome to Situational Awareness, a podcast brought to you by MILITARNYI. I'm your host Valentina Kuzak, and today we are at the headquarters of Granta Autonomy, Lithuanian defense tech company. Their drones been very popular in Ukraine and got very favorable feedback. What's the secret of their success? We'll talk to Gediminas Guoba, CEO of Granta Autonomy, to find out more. Welcome to Situational Awareness Podcast, Gediminas. We are very happy to have you here. I know you had a conversation with my colleague, Katarina Suprun, a year ago. I watched that conversation and I know a lot of things changed and Granta Autonomy moved forward. So we are here today to learn more about the company. We started this podcast as an English language podcast so we can draw attention of investors, other defense tech companies to Ukraine, but also those who cooperate with Ukraine and help Ukraine like your company does.
Yeah.
So let us start with you telling us about your company, when it started, what were the key milestones. I've learned that you, from Katarina's podcast, that you are an engineer. So can you tell us a bit more about how everything started?
Yeah, very good question. So in general, the idea about moving to defense, to drones area, we came to that idea together with the second founder of this company back in 2014. So all the events in Ukraine and so on, actually those events pushed us to side that, okay, probably the same can happen here, so we need to prepare. So what I, as a person, can do about that? And yeah, a very good note, I'm an engineer, so that's what allowed me to think from engineering perspective. And even at that time, already was obvious, Ukrainians did really great job with drones already. So that was kind of obvious, okay, drones is the future. So yeah, let's start focusing on that. So for that time, we were working only as drone operators in military exercises here in Lithuania. We started to gather knowledge. We made drones by ourselves, for ourselves. And that was the start. And yeah, the first milestone probably was in 2017 when we decided that, okay, it's enough to build drones for ourselves. We would like to build drones for everyone, for others, right? And yeah, from the very beginning, that was about defense only, about, for that time, about doing reconnaissance. So 2017, we decided, okay, let's create a first product, which was called, in Lithuanian, it's called Shirše, in Ukrainian, it's Shershen. I think that's the word, hornet. And the name came because of UAV size. So we see here the first generation UAV, our Hornet, and that was the first product. And to be honest, in 2018 we got the first contract with Lithuanian Armed Forces, and that's where Granta, at that point in time, that was our company was called Granta Solutions, and that was the beginning of our company in general. So yeah, that was the first milestone. The second milestone probably was 2022, 24th of February, because after full-scale invasion, that was the day, right? We were sitting in our other office and we just were telling to ourselves, okay, that's the time. That's the time what we were preparing for. And so we need to start manufacturing drones and send them to Ukraine. And yeah, that was definitely the second milestone, because yeah, that's when our drones started to participate in the war, in the battlefield. Yeah, and that was completely a new page for our company, because in place of manufacturing, developing drones just for peaceful environment, like peaceful exercises and so on, our drones until then, they never participated in the battlefield. And yeah, after 2022, we started to gather a lot of experience, a lot of feedback. Okay, what actually works, what doesn't? Because from the very beginning, we were not only like drone designers, like fuselage, wings, and so on. Actually, we were developing key technologies for them.
And the components, right?
Yes, data link, camera, gimbals. From the very beginning was our focus. And that was also for us a very good feedback. Okay, so how our data link works. It didn't work very well initially, but that feedback, that experience, our own experience in Ukraine in different tests, initially in military ranges, later in the battlefield, gathered us a very good understanding what works, what doesn't, how jammers works. Because at that time, 2022, to find a jammer in Lithuania was quite difficult. Yeah, there is a company who manufactures them, but in general, to have just like in lab jammer was something unusual. So yeah, those are kind of key milestones. And now, after 2022, so yeah, many things already have changed. Like we launched third generation Hornet XR, which is completely different comparing with previous generations. Our data link became exceptional in the battlefield comparing what we had in 2022. So yeah, many things changed since then.
You probably talk to your competitors. Sometimes we call them partners, right? Because we are kind of working on the same goal of Ukraine winning, or at least not losing the war in Ukraine, right? How can you assess the business and entrepreneurship in defense tech in Ukraine differs from what it is in Lithuania?
Very good question.
If I can give you a hint, like recently what I'm seeing is a drone manufacturing are buying the companies, for example, producing, like if you are dealing with drones on one domain, you're buying a smaller company which is operating in a different domain.
Yeah.
You know, so there are already those acquisition merging. So like it seems like the market went to some level of maturity, maybe. Intermediate one. Is it the same in Lithuania, or it's more like on the initial level, less players, less contracts from
Maybe
the state?
not in general, like in Lithuania only, but I see that direction in all countries. Like, would it be Europe or would it be USA? We see that
Right.
kind of consolidation. But yeah, bigger companies buy smaller companies. So I think it's kind of the direction, because drone market in general is very new market. Until 2022, it was it was in like in very early stages, right? And just now it gets more and more mature. So obviously, like bigger companies who previously maybe they didn't see drones as a very close future, or yeah, for other reasons. So now we find out, but okay, we need drones in our portfolio, so we need to buy them, or we need some other capabilities from drones, not only UAVs, but UGVs, maybe USVs, and so on, so on. So yeah, definitely, I'm sure we will see consolidation in this market. Now it was this market was quite chaotic. Even in Ukraine, for example, we see many different drones with many different products. All of them kind of works a little bit different with different user interfaces and so on and so on. So yeah, going forward, I'm sure this market will consolidate.
And about your company again, like in May, I was at the Baltic Defense Summit, Miltech, yeah? It was
Yes.
Miltech Summit, and you signed the cooperation agreement with Rheinmetall. So on what stage you are at with Rheinmetall, and from what we know and what is publicly available information is that you produce a system for their vehicles, right? Can you tell us a bit more on that?
Yeah, so with Rheinmetall, we have very different projects. Not only
This one, right?
not only like drones integration into infantry fighting vehicles or other vehicles, but also other projects. And here, actually, another tendency what we see until 2022. We saw that many companies were working on their own. Now we see, and demand is big, and there are many more companies, defense companies, drones companies around. So we see what more and more, and we follow the same path. More companies join their efforts together to deliver products faster to the battlefield. That's the same what we do with Rheinmetall, that's the same what we do with other companies. Because, now you don't have time to develop a new product or something. You are expert in some areas and you look for other experts in other areas. And you are happy, competitors becomes partners. You are happy to those partners invite your project and just deliver your product faster.
Yeah, well, it's one of the trends, but it seems to me that some companies say we want to produce everything in-house. If you produce like a drone, we want to produce the whole system of drones, like not maybe in swarms in a classical understanding of that, but there's comparable systems that create like the overall system, because we want to create software, hardware, all in-house, and all the components as well. I've recently had a conversation with Quantum Systems, and they're like another company, Stark, but they do have like the same founder. Like the managing director of Stark in Ukraine said they want to produce everything in-house, so they have the whole system. So it seems that on one hand there are those partnerships, if maybe the company find that this is a better way for them to manage, and on the other hand it seems that some companies want to produce like the whole family, let's say, of drones that can work together. What's your approach, or you're doing both, it seems like?
In general, even if you talk about quantum systems or any other big company like Rheinmetall, right? All of those companies, they still do a lot of work integrating other components. For example, quantum systems, they use third-party data link, they use third-party camera gimbal, they use third-party computing models, and so on and so on. So maybe at some point it will be possible, but still, KNDS, they do not produce the whole tank on their own premises. They order a lot of components from elsewhere, because you can be expert in all areas, and probably that's
But
not
you
a
do
problem.
produce your own gimbal and data link.
Yes, we do, but that's because we started 10 years ago. We started 10 years ago, and to be honest, at some point, in 2022, we were thinking, okay, maybe we need to start using someone else's data link, because our data link was not performing, but later, okay, we fixed it. And probably if I would start like in 2022 now, right, probably I would also just use third-party components, because to develop those components, you really need a lot of time, very good experts, very good understanding, and
A
so on
very
and so on.
niche expertise.
Yes, exactly. So I believe those big companies who has a lot of resources, we probably can invest those resources in one or other area. But again, market now is very fast. So if you can buy something in the market, you better buy it and just work on something really new, what is not here yet. For example, I know, would it be like a drone interceptors avoidance, or would it be, artillery fire detection or something else? There are really a lot of new areas that needs to be covered. So probably it's better to work in those areas in place of developing technologies that already exist.
Right, right. That's very interesting. So, what's your approach now? Are you developing components? Are you buying them from China? Are you buying them from Ukraine?
China for us is not a market that we prefer buying from because we follow the very simple idea. Like China is it's China is a problem, if I can call it like that, not because you can buy there cheap or they have different opinions or something. In general, buying from China, we invest in their manufacturing capabilities, their manufacturing expertise. And here in Europe, we are losing that expertise. We don't know how to manufacture things anymore. So we need to get it back and we need to start learning from the very beginning how to manufacture. So that's our idea. That's why we're focusing on countries which are, first of all, based in Europe and maybe then in the USA and so on. So we need to bring all our supply lines closer to us. So that's our idea.
Right.
So yeah,
but
China.
Are you buying something at least? What's your percentage of localization in Lithuania or EU?
I would say probably now like 90, maybe even 5% we buy in Europe, and just 5 to 10% we buy elsewhere.
Elsewhere in China or US, you mean?
I don't think we buy anything from China anymore. So I need to check, but yeah, there can be some components still inside from China. For example, we keep talking about magnets, right? So,
right.
So yeah, we are there.
Something that is really hard to replace.
Yeah, but Europe is the first where we are looking for products. They can be maybe even bigger, maybe work not so well as products in USA, but still that would be like a closer supply chain. And of course, Ukraine is very interesting market for us, and we buy a lot of things from there because Ukraine has developed now the market of components, of products which are not available anywhere else because we forced to that, right?
What are you buying from Ukraine, and can you name the companies you're working with?
We can start talking like from, I know, navigation systems to simple products as antenna masts or antennas or, yeah, anything. So in general, again, when we look for new product or for product replacement, we always talk with companies in Ukraine because we know that those products will be much better adapted to the battlefield than buying elsewhere, because they will be used like practically and will be adapted.
Right, because they are tested on the battlefield, right? But it's also like the innovation cycle is so short that you have to replace them as well and to buy new ones, new version of those. Can you tell us a bit more about the product line that you have? You have something on your website, but it's not everything you produce, and we have like a new X-Wing near you, so can you tell us a bit more?
So for a long time, our primary focus was reconnaissance drone, our Hornet, but since 2022, I believe, yeah, we have invested also a lot into loitering munitions, and we did some investments in FPV drones, bringing terminal guidance for FPV drones, better data links. But yeah, loitering munition is probably the next biggest milestone in our products line. But that's from one side, but from other side, we have reused a lot of components that we have already developed in our Hornet XR. We just reused them in our X-Wing. Something was redesigned from scratch, for example, like camera gimbal. So it's redesigned from scratch to ensure that, okay, with reconnaissance drone, you want to work that camera gimbal for hundreds and hundreds of hours, right? For loitering munition, you need gimbal only for 1 hour. So
Right.
of course you want to have it cheaper, much simpler to manufacture, maybe even simpler materials and so on and so on. So yeah, some components were redesigned, but in general, this is the same quality and same capabilities what we have brought to our reconnaissance drone.
How are you choosing what to work on? Because again, getting back to that interview with my colleague Katarina Suprun, she was asking, are you working on a Mavic or something that is an analog to that? But you said that you are not working on that, but you're choosing other direction. So what is driving you when you choose what to work on?
Very good question. In general, for a long time, and I think still, we mostly focused on fixed-wing type UAVs. So X-wing is already kind of separate or another direction from fixed wings, but still it is fixed wing, even it's VTOL. So that's where we have like most of our experience is dedicated for fixed wings. And I believe our other products also will be around fixed wings. So yeah. And then when you have that area, like long range and so on. So now mostly you just decide, okay, so what range you want to have. So, and probably our coming product line will be also related to increasing the range with, in which we can work. For example, our Hornet XR, when we launched it in 2023, it probably could worked only in like a 20 kilometers range. Now we are talking about 50, 60 kilometers, 50, 60 kilometers range. So yeah, it already has increased during
And
last 2
when I was
years.
setting up the lights, your colleagues told me that the next milestone is 100 kilometers.
Yes.
As the gray zone is expanding,
Yes,
the range
exactly.
should expand as well.
Yeah.
Right. How about the components? Do you have any plans on developing them? And a special question from my colleagues from Ukraine. They asked me to ask you about the interception. And are you somehow working within this project of drone wall that Europe seems to want to develop? Because it's becoming an issue, a pressing issue for...
Yeah, so for components, our next component that we are planning to launch, and already did some experiments with our prototype. So our next component definitely will be about navigation, because as I like to say, jammers took away autonomy from drones, right? Because GPS is not available anymore, so drones are not autonomous anymore. So to bring autonomy back to drones, first of all, what you need to get back navigation. So that's why we are focusing it, because we see it as a critical component, not only for us, but in general for drone industry. That's why we have chosen that direction.
Are you a part of this drone wall
Yes,
project that everyone is
counter
talking?
UAS, yeah. So yes, we are, and short story about that. Back in 2023, when we conducted first test with our Hornet XR flying above Russian jammers, and we find out that okay, we can't do anything to our UAV. We had on control and video and so on. So we had fully working data link. We understood that okay, in general, jammers they have very limited capabilities. So to ensure that you will be able to defend yourself from drones, you need to have something kinetic. And already in 2023, we started to work on counter UAS drones. But yeah, later we find out that, okay, to develop drone, it's not enough. You actually need to have the whole system. And probably the key element of that system is sensor. And sensor is radar. So radar to let you detect drones from quite far away.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started it quite early. Later we suspended it, but recently we restarted that project again. So yeah, developing counter-UAS capability too, but it's too early to start talking about
So when you reinstated that project, was in response to the Russian attacks recently?
Yes, more or less. That was flights of Russian UAVs in Lithuania in general accelerated that project because, of course, we got more attention from authorities like, okay, we need that capability. So what you can bring on the table. So yeah, definitely.
But you
that
can't provide
accelerated.
the timeline. Are you working in a partnership with others? Like, are you solely working on your kind of
We do.
we
We do
do.
because, yeah, as I
Other
mentioned,
Lithuanian, other Baltics, or Polish companies?
those are Baltic companies. Those are Baltic companies because, yeah, again, as I mentioned, counter UAS system, it's quite complicated one because yeah, you need radars, you need effectors, probably you need different kind of effectors. So yeah, I don't know if a single company can develop
Right.
the whole
So there
system.
are companies that are specializing on that, and you're kind of joining. Okay, and it's a good place to ask you about cooperation with other Baltic countries like Estonia and Latvia. Do you have any joint projects with them?
Yes, we do have, but in general, in other scopes, like mostly in EDF scope, European Defense
Defense Fund.
Fund scope. But yeah, if we talk about projects which are kind of dedicated to support Ukraine, mostly we work with Lithuanian companies, German companies, with those countries.
And Ukrainians,
Yes, of
obviously, as
course.
well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about cooperation as well with defense ministries. You mentioned that Defense Ministry of Lithuania was buying your drones in 2017, right? That's
Yes.
correct? Well, it seems quite early because, I still hear that the Lithuanian Defense Ministry isn't active enough buying new stuff from the companies and rather buying big vehicles because they used to do that for a long time. Do you agree with that, or is the situation is changing?
Yeah, if you talk about Lithuanian Ministry of Defense, probably for now it's hard to say what is the vision of our Ministry of Defense, especially when we see what today Minister of Defense have resigned. So we don't have Minister of Defense anymore. And at the same time, we see kind of lack of, maybe not a vision, but kind of
Strategy?
yes, in drones. Because, yeah, we focused on buying exactly big things, but not really drones. So, and that's kind of, I know, other companies have, other countries, other MODs of other countries have bought many more UAVs from us comparing with Lithuania. So Lithuania currently, yeah, really lacking a strategy of like boosting drone industry. So yeah, we are.
It's interesting.
Not
You
there.
probably can name the countries that you're supplying drones to, but maybe the amount of countries in Europe that is buying your drones?
Probably I can mention just those which are public. So Germany definitely is the one. Other countries probably we are not publishing that information.
How about work with Ukrainian's defense ministry? Do you have any? You probably Ukrainian defense ministry is buying from you as well.
Not really, but because we are focusing mostly on encouraging other NATO countries buying from us and sending to
Right.
Ukraine. So
Okay.
I think for Ukrainian MoD, it's absolutely fine what we are focusing on there in industry, right? For in Ukrainian industry, and then we are working with other NATO countries and finding the way with them how to manufacture our drones and send through them to Ukraine.
How you cooperate with Ukrainian army? We have a project on MILITARNYI where different brigades are giving their feedback on different stuff they are using, and there is a very favorable feedback about Hornet. I don't know whether you've seen that.
Yeah.
Basically, the key message is there. I actually have a quote. So the Hornet is exceptionally simple and user-friendly. It is hand-launchable and tolerant of hard landings. It forgives minor pilot errors and uses novel, not standard control protocols that enable reliable operation under electronic warfare conditions. Its camera switches easily between day and night modes and provides robust image transmission and operational range. So very favorable feedback, basically saying it stands out among other, arms that they do receive from different manufacturers. So how you reach that, success and excellence? Can you expand
Yeah,
on
by the
that?
way, that was very good article, and that was a huge surprise for myself seeing that feedback. Because we had great work together with 7th Army Corps, and later when we saw that article, we were thinking, okay, that's great, because we are not really publishing much about our work in the battlefield, and that was kind of feedback from end users. Okay, look, those guys doing great job, and that is kind of a great motivation for us to keep doing that job and understand that, okay, what we do it in a good way. So how we have achieved that? I believe there are a few things. First of all, as I mentioned, we are operators since 10 years ago. And we always were thinking about our UAV as a tool for ourselves. If I'm not happy about it, my customer definitely won't be happy about it. And if I did something what I like about it, then probably my customer will like it too. So that's probably the first thing. And what you mentioned here about like reliability and so on, that's something what we have really invested into it, because as military operators, we had not a single time a situation when you come to your position and you don't even know where to launch or where to land, and you just want to ensure that your UAV is reliable enough to survive those minor landings into tree or somewhere. So that's what led us to a such product. But other thing, of course, is to keep getting feedback from the real environment. And real environment I call battlefield, because you can very fast forget about improving your products and really start and really kind of invest into real understanding of your product. So that's what we try to avoid. And as a good example, for example, in 2022, we started to send our drones to operators in Ukraine, but we didn't participate ourselves. We just expected feedback. And we still were feeling that we don't have understanding how our drones performs. Because, you get available feedback from operators, but still it's
fine.
not technical thing.
Okay.
So in 2023, we started constantly go to Ukraine and operate ourselves in the battlefield and so on. And then,
what do you mean operate ourselves on the battlefield? Are you actually sending your people on the front line?
That's right. That's right. That's what we do. Because then you One thing when you get a few sentences about your UAV performance, right? But it's absolutely different when those a few hours or maybe the whole day you spend at the front lines and you just absorb all that information, what's going on there, how you assemble, how you extract the cable, how you connect it to GCS, how you hide from
You're kind of
hostile drones.
extracting this one more communication component because you're actually getting the information yourself on the ground.
Yes. So you are kind of living in that environment. You're feeling it, and that's absolutely different. Different feedback from your priorities, for your understanding what a battlefield is, for your future development. So we keep going there. We
How
keep
often do you
working
have
there.
to go?
Quite often. But again, that's how you can keep developing. I don't see other way. Just participating there on our own, together with Ukrainian armed forces.
But are you having those people on the ground? Are the Ukrainians working for you, or are they Lithuanians coming from Vilnius, let's say, to the battlefield?
Our employees going to the battlefield together with Ukrainian armed forces operators and working together there.
Right. So are you doing that for a long time? Let's talk about the 7th Aerial Assault Brigade. How long have you been working with them, right? When you started, and are there any other brigades you're working with?
Yeah, so 7th Army Corps, I think we are in general quite new. Probably we were established this year, joining other brigades. But in any way, we have started to work with them quite recently, so we don't have a lot of experience exactly with 7th Corps. But yeah, we are working with many other brigades, and to be honest, with different forces, with Marines, with SSO, Special Operation Forces, and so on and so on. So yeah, in general, probably we work with all forces in Ukraine. Yeah. So it's not only 7th Corps.
Well, that's impressive. And what's your, kind of experience so far? Except of that you have to go on the ground yourself because you are not, I do understand that probably if the feedback that they provide to you, it's also like a source of information for you,
Yes,
definitely.
sure.
But it can't be the only source if you want to succeed and, produce a really efficient product for the front line, right?
Probably depends on what you are developing. We are developing one of our components, what we are developing, and probably because of which we spend quite a lot of time in the battlefield, is data link. So we bring different equipment and so on to test it there. Because, again, some of that equipment or some data you want to gather, we are quite specific. And you need to send your engineers there to collect that information. So probably that's the kind of primary reason why we go to the battlefield and operate there and work there and, again, gather data and so on and so on.
Yeah, because if the soldier doesn't have any engineering education, they can provide a meaningful feedback to you, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I should mention that Ukrainian operators, they have really a lot of experience in different areas. Like you can talk with them about antenna tuning, about jammers, how jammers works, and so on and so on. So they are really experienced. I don't know any other country in the world where operators would have so much experience.
Okay, so they're curious, but they also go to the army with different backgrounds. Like they can be, they can be tech guys, but they also can be farmers. So people are very different.
They learn that.
Yeah,
they learn that, and they do understand that, and that's. I should admit that that's in some areas, they are not really easy to understand. And that's really like, a huge respect for them, learning that and using that experience every day.
That in Ukraine we already have this really rich ecosystem like of investors, government agencies that are providing grants to young manufacturers, stuff like that. What's the situation like in Lithuania? I do know you have some hackathons here and there. You do have some of the investors working on dual use or tech, as they say. How about your company? Are you getting any investments from outside? And how would you assess the development of the defense tech ecosystem in Lithuania?
So, first of all, yes, we have made an investment round last year, and that is a good point. Like we were looking for first investment back in 2018. And no one was interested, actually. Everyone just was saying, okay, we are interested in IT tech, but yeah, not
And also
not
defense
really
was
defense.
toxic.
Yes, exactly. So after 2022, maybe even in 2023, things really changed a lot. So yeah, we were able to attract investors, and yeah, I would say Lithuania did really great job starting investment funds like Scale Wolf, other funds. So we are really in a good place there. But what I see, what we really lack. Okay, so for example, I'm starting a new company. I'm a new startup who has a great idea. I have attracted investors, right? I have developed prototype, and that's the step which we are missing here in Lithuania. What's next? So I have prototype. What's next?
Right.
And the next thing, usually for us, for Granta Autonomy, is to bring that stuff to the battlefield and test it there. But for startups, usually it's not a good way, because probably initially you will bring that new equipment or new idea to the military range and we'll test it there. But after you will bring, or even in military range, after you will bring to the battlefield, probably that equipment will be lost. And in most cases, all those pieces of great technology, they cost a lot. And for new startups, for new companies, it can be kind of only a single piece, but what we were able to manufacture. Yes. So that's something what we miss, something where our MoD would be able to buy a prototype and finance sending it to the battlefield and test it there. Because Ukrainian armed forces, they really great at supporting you there. If you need feedback, something, they are there. They will support you. But what you need like a real thing to bring there, to test there, and so on. So yeah, that's something what we miss. And I believe, in my opinion, this is a big gap between developing just something, coming from idea to real thing. This is a big gap, but yeah, I hope it will be solved in.
So you think the government
future.
should step up basically and support those startups by
financing
providing
prototypes.
small grants for them so they can develop at least at the initial stage. Okay, makes sense. And the last question again from our editor-in-chief, he asked me to ask you about some of the cases of the usage on a battlefield of your products, some of them real battlefield cases, if you can tell us.
But you mean use case, example how it was used?
Right.
Yeah, probably what is the most interesting about our Hornet XR, and that idea led us from the very beginning when we started to manufacture drones. We always wanted our drones to be small, to be small, but yet effective. And that's something, we were sharing that idea for a very long time. Like in Ukraine, same as in Lithuania, we have one problem. That problem is called clouds. During autumn, winter, spring, clouds usually at 100, maybe 200 meters high. And that means that reconnaissance drones can't work anymore because they can't get the right altitude where they wouldn't be, where they couldn't be reached by guns or other means. And we always were thinking about that because we knew about that problem here in Lithuania, and having a small drone for us always made a sense. And now what we see in Ukraine, and our end users finds out that, but okay, this is a very small drone, this is a very silent drone, so you can fly it at low altitudes, and that means that you can fly it during winter, autumn, and spring. Because usually during that time, bigger drones, they just resting in warehouses and waiting for summer or waiting for spring. So that's kind of one thing. The other thing what we find out, and that's actually what was mentioned in the article that you just mentioned, but the size of our drone actually also helped us to avoid radars. And avoiding radars means that you will avoid, very likely, you also will avoid interceptors. So yeah, that idea what we were having since the very beginning finally finds its way like a very unique feature of our drone.
So size matters, the smaller the better.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so thank you for the conversation, Gediminas. Buvo labai įdomu ir malonu. And I think we'll meet each other in a year maybe, and you'll tell more about your interceptors project, right?
Sure,
You're
I hope
working
so
on.
too.
Thank you.
Great.